All right, I'm with Greg Connors, Bills sponsor, Bills fan, knows this team. Let's start with the whole stadium talk and all. When you saw the reports of all of that, you're connected with the ownership group here, you're connected with the business community. What were your thoughts on hearing what came out about the stadium?
Well, from my perspective, being a Western New York faithful, tried and true fan and sponsor, I looked at it in terms of, one of the parties is looking to gain some type of leverage and gain something from it, which is why it's released. Kim and Terry Pegula are diehard Western New York lovers. They bought this team because they love Western New York. If the team were ever to move from Western New York, it's not because of them, it's because of the people in New York State didn't want to support the Bills team and the Bills Mafia. And so, they have options, as in many businesses do, doing business in New York State. I would hate to see that happen, but I'm sure cooler heads will prevail and it'll get the job done.
Right. When we talk about the stadium itself, the story's been out about them wanting to build here in Orchard Park. You have a good perspective on what they're thinking in terms of the type of stadium and what really fits this market.
Yeah, again, Kim and Terry love Western New York, and they want to preserve what has made the Bills tradition what it is. They love the tailgate and the weather conditions. And so, from what I've heard and from what, the people within the organization, Coach McDermott, what they love is preserving that. So, having an open air stadium, something that keeps the tradition of Bills and having that snow like we had against Indy a couple years ago, while also preserving the tailgate, the Bills Mafia experience and that family experience. And having it out here in Orchard Park, I think fits that. There's other options that they have, and they'll weigh it and make. My opinion is that they love the Bills so much and love Western New York that they will do whatever they can to make it the experience for the Bills fans. And that's what their intention is.
While we're here at training camp, it's not at St. John Fisher. Pluses and minuses here, they've got their whole facility. The negative side of it not being a Fisher, not just to people in Rochester, is there's limited fans. There's only the few practices. Do you have any idea yet what the future might hold of back to a regular training camp environment at Fisher?
Yeah, there's been some great ideas bounced around by the Bills organization, the Bills team, and their business development, and some of the football operations. This has worked pretty well for them. But having that 2 weeks in Rochester, having fans involved, having the team there right off the bat to kind of get that close knit group, I think it'd be a great combination to have a couple of weeks in Rochester, come off of the break for the preseason game, and then have a couple of weeks here. And I think that would work great. The blue and red scrimmage they're going to do on Saturday should be a huge crowd, and I think that's a great compliment.
Yeah. In terms of this team, you're out here, you're watching practice. This Josh Allen kid, he looks pretty good, doesn't he?
He's really matured pretty well for a young guy. Josh has been great. Watching his progress over the years from when he first came into his rookie year at Fisher to where he is now, his leadership, his command on the field. I mean, that's fun to watch. It's great to see. And as a Bills fan, you've been waiting for that for a couple of years. What I love to see is watching the rookies come in. You see a guy like Spencer Brown. He's like 3 feet taller than I am. and to see a guy that athletic do what he can do here on the practice field, that's what was really great about having at Fisher and having the fans engage and to see that. So I look forward to having the opportunity next year for that.
Years ago, the Bills used to have like a traveling basketball team that could go around and play. I mean, between Rousseau and Brown and some of the other, and Tremaine Edmonds, I mean, you could have a heck of at least a G League team for the NBA.
Yeah, I think the Western New York Division I programs like Bonnie's and Niagara and UB, I think they'd be tested by the Bills basketball team, definitely.
Yeah, in terms of this team and the expectations, when you go back to when Sean first got here and Brandon first got here, it was about building. And look, they still try to do that, but you're talking about 21 of 22 starters back for this team. This is a team that was in the AFC Championship game. Having high expectations, as much as they say we want to start over again, they know those expectations are there, right?
Well, I think the expectations were there from the beginning. I mean, you start over, you have to build a program, which is what they've done. But the expectations from day one was to win the Super Bowl. I don't think that expectation is any different now. They've now tasted it being out in Kansas City, which even fuels that fire even more because you know how close you are. And I think what they've done on the offseason in terms of bringing up some key position groups and then getting some depth is huge. Having Mitch Trubisky here, he's been fantastic. Having that depth at quarterback, you know, we've joked, I think they got the 2 best quarterbacks in the AFC here in Buffalo.
Yeah, well, you know, when you look at what Trubisky brings them, I think it's an upgrade on Matt Barkley, who was good for that period of time, but in case you need it, you got the other guy. Now, I know as a defensive back, you're watching the defensive backs during this time. You got such consistency with Hyde and Poyer and Trey White. Anybody else you've had your eye on in the secondary?
You know, I really like Wallace. You know, I love the way he plays. He's kind of the underdog kid. You know, he wasn't a big draft pick, but the key to the secondary, Mike, my key was I always had really good lines. When I had a good defensive line, I was much better in the secondary than when the line wasn't as good. So upgrading the line and kind of trying to get that depth, what they've tried to do in this offseason, I think will help that secondary. And having those 2 young rookies in, I'm interested to see what they can do to help out. Jerry Hughes not being here right now, coming off with his injury. Hopefully he'll get healthy and get here into camp pretty soon so he can begin to work with everybody. But truly the key is the edge, right? Sean talked about in that Kansas City game, keeping the edge, and then it makes defensive backs look good.
That's what you want, right?
That's what I want.
All right, look, we're not going to hold you to this, but we kind of will. I want your prediction for the year. You got the whole training camp and the whole preseason, and we'll have another one as we get closer. But come on, right now, what's your prediction for the year?
So last year, my prediction to you was 13-3, and we both laughed at it, saying, okay, in a perfect world, that could happen. The ball bounced the right way a couple of times, couple calls benefited us. And I think with the maturation of the team this year, there's 17 games now. So I'm looking at either 13-4 or 14-3. And I think the way the schedule matches up, and if they are hot early, in the season ends, they have 3 or 4 games at home at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Not ideal for Bills fans up on the 300 level, but it's great to have the team at home.
So are we going to LA in February for the Super Bowl?
I've got my bags packed and reservations.